You think you know what addiction looks like? Think again. It's not just the guy on the street corner or the woman hiding bottles. It's you, scrolling Instagram for the 15th time today. It's your friend who can't go 5 minutes without checking their phone. It's the endless Netflix binges, the shopping sprees that empty your bank account, the desperate need for anyone, to text you back just so you can feel human for 5 seconds. Here's what's going to blow your mind. 2,000 years ago, a Roman emperor named Marcus Aurelius figured out the real reason behind every addiction. And it has nothing to do with drugs, alcohol, or willpower. This man, who literally had access to anything he wanted, discovered something that modern science is just now catching up to. Something that changes everything we thought we knew about why we can't stop doing the things that are destroying us. What you're about to discover isn't just another self-help theory. It's a complete reframe of what addiction actually is, why it happens, and how the most powerful man in the ancient world found the key to true freedom. Buckle up, because this is going to shatter everything you thought you knew about healing. The Emperor's Secret. Why Marcus Aurelius understood addiction better than anyone. Picture this. You're the most powerful person on earth. You command legions, control vast wealth, and people worship you as a god. You can have literally anything your heart desires at the snap of your fingers. Yet every morning, you wake up feeling empty. Sound familiar? That was Marcus Aurelius. And his struggle with inner emptiness led him to one of the most profound discoveries about human nature ever recorded. Here's the kicker. Marcus Aurelius never used the word addiction, but he understood it better than any modern psychologist. In his private journal, later published as Meditations, he wrote obsessively about a phenomenon he called the tyranny of opinion and slavery to external things. What he was describing, without knowing it, was the exact mechanism that drives every addictive behavior you've ever witnessed. The emperor realized something that would take humanity another 2 millennia to figure out. We don't get addicted to substances or behaviors. We get addicted to escaping the pain of not knowing who we really are. Marcus called this living according to the opinions of others rather than nature. In modern terms, we're so disconnected from our authentic selves that our brains are literally starving for meaning. Think about your last dopamine hit, that notification ping, that online purchase, that third slice of pizza you didn't really want. In that moment, you weren't chasing pleasure. You were running from the gnawing sensation that something essential was missing from your life. Marcus Aurelius felt this too. Despite having everything, he wrote, "Very little is needed to make a happy life. It is all within yourself, in your way of thinking." But here's where it gets revolutionary. Most people think willpower is the answer to addiction. Marcus discovered the opposite was true. The more he fought against his desires, the stronger they became. Instead, he developed what he called prosoche, a practice of constant self-observation without judgment. He learned to watch his cravings like clouds passing through the sky, neither grasping nor pushing away. The emperor's breakthrough came when he realized that every craving was actually his soul trying to communicate with him. That urge to drink? It was really a thirst for connection. That need to scroll social media endlessly? It was a desperate search for belonging. That compulsion to work 16-hour days? It was trying to prove his worth to himself. Modern neuroscience backs this up completely. When we're disconnected from our core values and authentic self, our brain's reward system goes haywire. Dopamine, which should naturally flow from meaningful activities, dries up. We become like addicts, constantly seeking external sources of the neurochemical satisfaction that should come from within. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Confine yourself to the present." He wasn't talking about mindfulness as a nice-to-have practice. He was describing the only way to break free from the addiction cycle. When you're fully present, you can feel the difference between genuine need and compulsive craving. You can sense when you're using something to avoid feeling versus engaging with it from a place of authentic choice. The emperor also discovered what modern psychology calls values-based living. He spent hours each day contemplating what really mattered to him: justice, courage, wisdom, and discipline, not as abstract concepts, but as living principles that guided every decision. When your life is aligned with your deepest values, addiction loses its grip because you're no longer running from yourself. Here's the part that'll change how you see everything. Marcus Aurelius realized that addiction isn't a moral failing or a disease, it's intelligence. Your psyche is smart enough to know something is wrong, and it's trying to fix the problem the only way it knows how. The addictive behavior is actually your inner wisdom crying out for attention, begging you to remember who you really are beneath all the conditioning and expectations. This is why traditional addiction treatment often fails. We're trying to eliminate symptoms while ignoring the message. Marcus Aurelius found a different way. Instead of fighting the addiction, he listened to what it was trying to tell him about his life. And that listening transformed him from a man enslaved by his impulses into one of history's greatest examples of inner freedom. The dopamine deception. Why your brain is starving in a world of plenty. Your brain is being hijacked, and you don't even know it. Right now, as you're reading this, your dopamine system, the very mechanism that's supposed to drive you toward meaningful goals and genuine satisfaction, is being systematically destroyed by a world designed to keep you craving more. Marcus Aurelius saw this coming 2,000 years ago, and his warnings are more relevant today than ever. Here's what's really happening in your head. Dopamine isn't actually the pleasure chemical. That's a myth that's keeping you trapped. Dopamine is the seeking chemical. It's what makes you anticipate, hunt, and pursue. In a healthy brain, dopamine should spike when you're working towards something meaningful, then give you a satisfying hit when you achieve it. But our modern world has weaponized this system against us. Every app on your phone, every streaming service, every social media platform has teams of neuroscientists and behavioral economists whose only job is to trigger your dopamine system as often as possible without ever giving you real satisfaction. They want you seeking, never finding, scrolling, never settling, consuming, never fulfilled. Marcus Aurelius called this the endless pursuit of what escapes us, and he saw how it made people slaves to their own desires. The emperor wrote, "How much trouble he avoids who does not look to see what his neighbor says or does." He wasn't being antisocial. He was recognizing that constantly comparing ourselves to others creates a dopamine deficit that's impossible to fill. Today, we call this social media addiction, but Marcus understood the deeper principle. When you live according to external validation, you're always in a state of craving because you can never control what others think of you. But here's where it gets really dark. The modern world isn't just stealing your dopamine hits, it's training your brain to fear the very thing that could heal you. Silence, stillness, being alone with your thoughts. Marcus Aurelius spent hours in contemplation, but today, the average person can't go 6 minutes without reaching for their phone. We've become addicted to stimulation because we're terrified of what we might discover in the quiet. Your brain is literally starving for what Marcus called the good life. Not pleasure, but meaning. Not excitement, but purpose. Not stimulation, but genuine connection with your deepest values. When these needs aren't met, your dopamine system goes into emergency mode, driving you to seek quick fixes that never actually fix anything. Think about your last binge, whether it was food, Netflix, online shopping, or social media. In the moment before you started, there was probably a feeling of emptiness, anxiety, or restlessness. That feeling is your brain's alarm system telling you that something essential is missing. But instead of investigating what that something is, we've been conditioned to silence the alarm with temporary distractions. Marcus Aurelius discovered something profound. True satisfaction comes from what he called symphonia, harmony between your actions and your nature. When you're living authentically, doing work that matters to you, maintaining relationships that nourish your soul, and pursuing goals that align with your values, dopamine flows naturally. You don't need to chase it because you're already living it. The emperor also understood that craving is information. When he felt the urge to indulge in something that wasn't good for him, instead of judging himself, he got curious. What is this craving telling me about what's missing in my life? This single question transformed his relationship with desire from enemy to teacher. Here's the revolutionary part. You can rewire your dopamine system, but not by fighting it. Marcus Aurelius proved that the way out isn't through restriction or willpower. It's through redirection. When you give your brain something genuinely meaningful to pursue, the artificial cravings start to fade naturally. It's like switching from junk food to a gourmet meal. Once you taste the real thing, the fake stuff loses its appeal. The key is understanding that your addiction isn't your enemy. It's your soul's clumsy attempt to get your attention. It's trying to tell you that you're living below your potential, settling for artificial satisfaction when authentic fulfillment is available. Marcus Aurelius heard this message and used it to transform himself from a man driven by impulse into a man guided by wisdom. The Shadow Emperor, facing the parts of yourself you've rejected. Here's something they don't teach you in history class. Marcus Aurelius, the most powerful man in the world, spent his private moments wrestling with shame, anger, and self-doubt. His personal writings reveal a man tormented by parts of himself he couldn't accept, and his journey to integrate these rejected aspects holds the key to understanding why we get addicted to anything that helps us avoid our own darkness. The emperor wrote brutally honest passages about his struggles. When you wake up in the morning, tell yourself, the people I deal with today will be meddling, ungrateful, arrogant, dishonest, jealous, and surly. But here's the twist. He wasn't just talking about other people. He was acknowledging these same qualities within himself. This brutal self-honesty was his secret weapon against addiction. What Marcus discovered is what modern psychology calls shadow work. The process of facing and integrating the parts of yourself you've rejected, denied, or hidden. Every addiction is ultimately an attempt to avoid meeting your shadow. That third drink isn't just about relaxation. It's about numbing the part of you that feels angry or inadequate. That shopping spree isn't just about wanting nice things. It's about avoiding the part of you that feels unloved or unworthy. The emperor realized that what you resist persists, but what you acknowledge loses its power over you. He made a daily practice of examining his own character defects without trying to fix them immediately. What upsets people is not things themselves, but their judgments on things, he wrote. This included his judgments about his own imperfections. Here's where most people get it wrong. They think shadow work means becoming a better person. Marcus Aurelius discovered it means becoming a whole person. When you stop running from your anger, jealousy, fear, or neediness, you stop needing substances or behaviors to help you escape these feelings. You can actually feel them, learn from them, and let them pass through you naturally. The emperor's approach was radical. Instead of fighting his dark impulses, he got curious about them. When he felt anger rising, instead of suppressing it or acting on it, he would ask, "What is this anger protecting? What boundary has been crossed? What value of mine is being threatened?" This transformed his relationship with difficult emotions from enemy to teacher. Think about your own addictive patterns. What emotion are you usually trying to avoid when you reach for your drug of choice? Anxiety? Loneliness? Rage? Shame? Marcus Aurelius learned that these emotions aren't problems to be solved. They're messages to be received. Your anxiety might be telling you you're not living authentically. Your loneliness might be calling you toward deeper connections. Your rage might be highlighting injustices that need your attention. But here's the game changer. Marcus discovered that your shadow contains not just your negative qualities, but also your disowned power. Maybe you rejected your ambition because someone called you selfish. Maybe you buried your creativity because someone said you weren't talented. Maybe you suppressed your sensitivity because someone told you to toughen up. These rejected parts of yourself are often where your greatest gifts are hiding. The emperor wrote, "Very little is needed to make a happy life. It is all within yourself, in your way of thinking." But he understood that accessing this inner completeness required facing everything you'd been taught was unacceptable about yourself. Your addiction often points directly toward these disowned parts of your personality. The revolutionary insight Marcus Aurelius had was this: you can't heal what you won't feel, and you can't integrate what you refuse to acknowledge. Every time you use something external to avoid an internal experience, you're reinforcing the belief that parts of you are too dangerous or unacceptable to face. But when you turn toward your shadow with curiosity and compassion, you discover that it's not the monster you thought it was. It's often your authentic self trying to break free from layers of conditioning. This is why willpower-based approaches to addiction rarely work long-term. You can't muscle your way past parts of yourself. You have to befriend them. Marcus Aurelius became free not by conquering his darkness, but by integrating it. And that integration is what transforms addiction from a compulsion into a choice. The Stoics Toolkit. Practical methods to reclaim your inner freedom. Marcus Aurelius didn't just philosophize about freedom from compulsive behavior. He developed a practical system that you can use starting today. These aren't feel-good theories. They're battle-tested techniques from a man who ruled an empire while mastering his own mind. And the best part? They work even better in our modern world than they did in ancient Rome. Tool number 1. The morning reflection ritual. Every morning, Marcus Aurelius began his day by writing in what we now call his Meditations. But this wasn't journaling about his feelings. It was a strategic practice of mental preparation. He would remind himself of his values, anticipate challenges, and set intentions for how he wanted to show up in the world. Here's how you adapt this. Before checking your phone or diving into your day, spend 5 minutes writing down 3 things. What kind of person do I want to be today? What challenges might trigger my addictive patterns? How will I respond to these triggers from my highest self rather than my reactive mind? This isn't about perfection. Marcus often wrote about his failures and recommitted to his principles. It's about conscious choice. When you start your day by connecting with your values, you create a psychological anchor that keeps you centered when cravings arise. Tool number 2. The evening examination. Every night, the emperor practiced what he called the day's review. He would examine his actions, thoughts, and reactions without judgment, looking for patterns and opportunities to grow. This wasn't self-criticism. It was data collection for self-improvement. Modern version. Before bed, ask yourself these 3 questions. When did I act from authenticity today, and how did that feel? When did I use escapist behaviors, and what was I trying to avoid? What did I learn about myself? And how will I apply this tomorrow? The key is approaching this with curiosity rather than judgment. Marcus wrote, "Be like the rocky headland on which the waves constantly break. It stands firm, and round it the seething waters are laid to rest." Your evening examination helps you become that steady presence in your own life. Tool number 3. The discipline of desire. Marcus Aurelius mastered what he called the discipline of desire. The practice of wanting what you have rather than having what you want. This isn't about settling for less. It's about finding genuine satisfaction in the present moment while still pursuing meaningful goals. Practical application. When a craving arises, pause and ask, what would be enough right now? Often, we're chasing more when what we really need is to appreciate what's already here. This doesn't mean never wanting anything. It means distinguishing between authentic desires that align with your values and compulsive cravings that are trying to fill an emotional void. Tool number 4. The view from above. The emperor regularly practiced imagining himself from a cosmic perspective, seeing his problems and desires in the context of the vast universe and the flow of time. This wasn't escapism. It was perspective-taking that helped him respond to challenges from wisdom rather than reactivity. Try this. When you're struggling with a compulsive urge, imagine viewing your life from high above. See yourself as one person among billions, living one moment among countless moments throughout history. This perspective doesn't minimize your experience. It puts it in context and often reveals that what feels urgently important is actually quite manageable. Tool number 5. The practice of voluntary discomfort. Marcus deliberately exposed himself to mild discomforts, cold baths, simple foods, basic accommodations. Not as punishment, but as training. He was building his tolerance for difficult experiences so that when real challenges arose, he would be prepared. Modern application. Deliberately practice saying no to things you want but don't need. Take cold showers. Sit with uncomfortable emotions without immediately reaching for your phone or your substance of choice. Fast for a few hours. These practices build your capacity to be with discomfort without needing to escape it immediately. The genius of Marcus Aurelius's approach is that it doesn't fight addiction directly. It builds the internal resources that make addiction unnecessary. When you have tools for dealing with difficult emotions, when you're connected to your values, and when you can find satisfaction in the present moment, the compulsive seeking for external fixes naturally diminishes. The Emperor's Liberation. Your roadmap to authentic freedom, the final secret Marcus Aurelius discovered, will completely change how you see recovery from addiction. After years of internal work, the Emperor realized that true freedom isn't the absence of desire. It's the ability to choose your response to desire. And that choice, that split-second decision between reaction and conscious action, is where your entire life can transform. Marcus wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." This isn't about controlling your cravings or eliminating temptation. It's about recognizing that between every stimulus and your response, there's a space, and in that space lies your freedom. Here's what nobody tells you about breaking free from addictive patterns. The goal isn't to never feel cravings again. The goal is to develop such a strong relationship with your authentic self that when cravings arise, you can meet them with curiosity instead of compulsion. Marcus Aurelius spent years learning to observe his impulses like a scientist studying an interesting phenomenon, without being controlled by them. The liberation process, Phase 1, recognition. The Emperor's first breakthrough was recognizing that his struggles weren't personal failures. They were universal human experiences. Every person who has ever lived has battled with parts of themselves they couldn't control. This recognition removed the shame that was actually feeding his compulsive behaviors. Your addiction isn't evidence that you're broken. It's evidence that you're human. Marcus wrote, "How much trouble he avoids who does not look to see what his neighbor says or does, but only to what he does himself." Stop comparing your internal struggles to other people's external appearances. Everyone is fighting battles you know nothing about. Phase 2, redirection. Instead of fighting his impulses, Marcus learned to redirect the energy behind them toward meaningful pursuits. That restlessness that might have driven him toward excess, he channeled it into justice for his people. That anger that might have led to destructive behavior, he transformed it into courage to make difficult decisions. The key insight: the energy behind your addiction is actually life force trying to express itself. Don't eliminate it, redirect it. If you're addicted to social media validation, redirect that desire for connection into building real relationships. If you're addicted to shopping, redirect that desire for beauty into creating something meaningful. The energy remains, only the expression changes. Phase 3, integration. Marcus Aurelius's final discovery was that true freedom comes not from conquering your shadow, but from integrating it. All those parts of yourself you've rejected, the angry part, the needy part, the scared part, they don't disappear when you get healthy. They become allies in your quest for authentic living. Your addiction has been trying to protect you from something. Maybe it protected you from feeling rejected by keeping you busy. Maybe it protected you from disappointment by keeping your expectations low. Thank it for its service, then show it a better way to meet those needs. This isn't about eliminating parts of yourself. It's about upgrading your coping strategies. The daily practice of freedom. Marcus Aurelius lived his liberation through daily practices that kept him connected to his authentic self. Here's your modern version. Morning. Connect with your values before connecting with your devices. Ask, who do I want to be today? Midday. Pause regularly to check in with yourself. Ask, am I acting from authenticity or reactivity right now? Evening. Reflect without judgment. Ask, what did I learn about myself today, and how will I apply this wisdom tomorrow? The ultimate truth. The emperor's final insight was this: you are not your addiction. You are not your cravings. You are not even your thoughts and emotions. You are the conscious awareness that can observe all of these things. And that awareness is free, always has been free, and always will be free. Your addiction has been a teacher, showing you where you've disconnected from your authentic self. Now that you've learned the lesson, you can choose a different way of being. Not because you have to, but because you want to. Not because you're fixing something broken, but because you're remembering something whole. Marcus Aurelius proved that true power isn't the ability to control the world around you. It's the ability to choose your response to whatever life presents. That choice is available to you right now, in this moment, and in every moment that follows. The emperor found his freedom in the space between stimulus and response. Your freedom is waiting in that same space.